Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. Today, I am honored to have as my guest Dr. Terri Bacow. She's a widely known expert in cognitive behavioral therapy on evidence-based therapy approach, and which is an evidence-based therapy approach. She's a Brown University and Boston University graduate. She authored several peer-reviewed papers and based on her research and sees clients in her private practice on the Upper West Side. She's a media contributor and has been featured in Scary Mommy, Women's Health, and Shape magazines. She is, as well as various blogs and podcasts. Dr. Bacow is the author of Goodbye Anxiety, a guided journal for overcoming worry. She lives with her husband and two children on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And when not seeing patients, she loves watching TV, exchanging memes with her friends and engaging in affordable retail therapy. I love that, Dr. Terri. Welcome.
I do too. I do too.
Yes, spoken like a true woman.
Exactly.
But I think that my older son liked retail therapy too, though, because he'd tell me, Mom, I'm depressed. I need to go shopping.
Of course, it's so therapeutic.
Yes, wonderful. So I am so happy to have you here. And I would really like to talk about parenting sanity. I know it's going to lead to other things, but let's start talking about parenting sanity because, parents do so much. They don't take care of themselves, and then they're in this whirlwind before they know it. Dr. Terri, please help them.
I would love to. I think that the place that I'd like to start is to talk about the parenting culture that we're in this moment in 2022. There's so much pressure on parents to do things perfectly, to spend copious amounts of time with their children, to put the child's needs ahead of their own, and to provide all this enrichment, extracurriculars, and to buy the right product, and to parent in certain ways, and to read up on the psychology of parenting. It's just too much. With the pandemic, I think parents became even more burned out because there was such a saturation of time that we were spending together and so much pressure coupled with mental health issues. It was just really bad.
That's a lot. And they have it all on their shoulders because parents don't know how to brush things off and move on. So how can you help them? What can you do? What can you tell them to help them with this?
So a lot of time in psychology, we talk about, quote, self-care. We use that term a lot. And I always say that self-care is best done not with addition, but subtraction. So instead of adding a spa treatment or adding even yoga or whatever is recommended for self-care, instead I tell parents to give away, to let go of expectation, to let go of demand, to delegate, to really literally give away, to subtract, take things off of your plate. So what that would look like would be to, if possible, to engage a partner or caregiver, a spouse, a friend, a family member to help you. It really takes a village. I know that's cliche, but I always encourage parents, if you don't really have to do it, don't do it. If someone else can do it, that person should do it. That's really, I think, my best advice.
Wow. And nobody has ever said that. I've never heard that said before, right? Subtract something. Because yes, we always think of adding that spa and yoga and meditation and all those other things, but to actually take something off your plate. So parents, your homework is to take something off your plate. We're not done yet, but I'm just letting you know, take something off your plate. Dr. Terri just told you that. Do it.
Absolutely. I firmly believe that your sanity as a parent and your mental health will improve if you can remove obligations, even if it costs a little bit of money, if you have it, to create more space for your own thoughts, for your own time, for being human.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. And being human is the first part of being a parent. So if you're not taking care of the human part of you, the part that needs you first, can you really parent effectively, Dr. Terry?
How that what she
Parent, like,
said.
can you parent effectively? Can you do a good job as a parent if you don't take care of you first?
100%. And I have to bring up the oxygen mask,
Yeah.
which has a lot of wisdom to it. If you are on a plane, it is best to give yourself oxygen to then, after that, provide the child or whomever, other passengers with oxygen. You can't drink from an empty cup. In order to best care for others, you have to care for yourself.
Thank you. Because I don't think parents can hear that enough because first they have to get past the guilt of doing something for themselves. And, we learn by repetition. So the more we say it, hopefully one day it seeps in. Really, I do need to take care of myself, so I can be a better parent.
Yes, and it's so, when you bring up guilt, I always say, if we were to look up the word guilt in the dictionary, it would say person who has done something wrong, person who has committed a crime, right? So why do mom and dad and parents feel guilty for going out to dinner or hiring a babysitter? Where is the crime in that? I don't understand it.
Wow. I just need to take a moment with that one, Dr. Terry. Because that's again, I've never looked, put the two together. The guilt, yes, we're feeling guilt because we're feeling badly about something, but yeah, there was no crime. So there's no reason to feel guilty.
Yeah, and I think that again, the parenting culture promotes the guilt. Send the message that you have to be all in 24/7, relentless in order to be a good parent, which really is impossible. It's an unrealistic standard to live by.
It really is, because I heard a statistic, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but you can do like even the parents who've done everything, the best of everything, the chances of like they have a 67% rate of their children doing well later. Does that sound familiar to you?
It sounds accurate, but I also think the parents forgot that children benefit from being with other people. They benefit from being with their friends, and they benefit from being with caregivers. They learn social skills. And it's also completely okay, even beneficial for children to play by themselves. It promotes independence and brain development. So why do we as parents, why do we need to be the playmate and the chef and the chauffeur and the you know, all the different hats that we put on when other people really need to play those roles and the child will benefit from it.
Wow. So again, I love that because you're just building on taking things off their plates. I love that, the examples and the way that you're putting it because, you know, somebody else I interviewed, Nate Turner, he mentioned um, the fact that your children need a starting five and you can't be everything to them. So if you have five adults, five key adults in place that they can go to, who can do their jobs, not yours, but their jobs as that team player in that starting five, then your child would have a better experience because they need more than just you.
Yes. And this, where my mind goes next is if your child has maybe an issue of some kind, anxiety or depression, or maybe a developmental delay or ADHD, you as the parent are not responsible for fixing it. You can support your child, but I really think it's best to delegate to the professionals, to the school guidance counselor, to a therapist, to really an expert on that issue.
Oh gosh, yes. And I see that so often. Parents try to, they'll, it's great to do your research, but then they're trying so many different things instead of trying to work with a professional because we all need to, as my husband would say, stay in our lanes.
Yes,
you know? And if you try to be everything, not only will you be burnt out, but then you're trying so many different things and you get nowhere.
exactly. Um, Parental burnout, I think, is more of a problem now than ever. The rates of parental burnout have really gone up, especially after the pandemic.
Yes, because they're home all day with their children. Yeah, so that was a lot. That was a lot. My
It really
goodness.
is.
Whew, I just need to take a breath right now because I'm just thinking about all those things. Wow. So, what are some other ways you would think? So, you've talked about taking things off plates, and I know those things will probably also help with managing stress because when you take things off your plate, you manage stress. Are there any other tips that you can give to manage stress or anxiety?
Absolutely. So I think that self-compassion is really important. As parents, we are really hard on ourselves. This kind of circles back to guilt, which we had mentioned earlier. Self-compassion is not indulgent, it's good science. Research shows that we can more effectively change our behavior if we are kind to ourselves. Self-criticism does not promote behavior change nearly as
Mm.
much as self-compassion does. Or what that would look like if you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed would be to stop and take a breath and to say, it is understandable that I feel this way, to validate your own emotion, to understand, even if you make a mistake, that if the circumstances had been different, your behavior would have been different. And this could really cut out a lot of the noise. So I always prescribe self compassion. And that might be a statement that you say to yourself, which is, this is a hard moment for me right now. My feelings are valid. Let me be kind to myself. Let me ask myself, what do I need in this moment?
Lovely. So, and I've just learned this recently because you first acknowledge the behavior and then you address it. Because if we try to push it out, they say what you resist persists. So, yeah, awesome. I am learning so much.
And another great stress management strategy is reframing. What reframing is a cognitive technique that we use in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is when you have an anxious thought or catastrophic thought, to stop and really examine that thought or that interpretation objectively, to ask yourself, what evidence do I have for this worry? Do I have any proof? What has happened in the same situation in the past? Or if this has happened before, does it mean it's going to happen again? It's really kind of critical thinking about your thoughts and your assumptions and your worries. And sometimes it's really hard to do this for ourselves. We can't be objective. So in that case, it's really good to talk to a friend, a family member, a therapist about your problems. Don't keep them to yourself. Really vent. Really tell someone what's on your mind. And then they can maybe help you be more objective.
Yes, that sounding board. Wow. Call on your village.
Yes. And also, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, to really kind of take whatever it is and to try to break it into smaller components, into bite-sized pieces, to really look at the problem and break it into chunks. And now, if you have a deadline, really divide it over a number of days, or again, delegate. But I think the problem solving is really one of the most powerful, kind of underrated strategy that we can use to manage stress and anxiety. Our problem solving involved is, okay, this is the problem. Instead of being paralyzed by it, what action can I take? What can be done? I always encourage people to focus on what you can control.
What that is so powerful. Because I know for me, I had to tell myself that just a couple of days ago, you can't do anything about this, so let it go. And I had to say it out loud so I could hear myself say it because I had to think because I had anxiety and I was just feeling a little bit stressed. And I thought, why am I stressed? I can't do anything. Me stressing doesn't help.
That is so wise. I'm so glad you said that because once you make a distinction between what you can and cannot control, you could choose the course of action. And sometimes the course of action is radical acceptance, to really radically accept. There's nothing I can do about this right now. I really hate it. Now, acceptance doesn't mean approval. It just means I don't like this and there is nothing I could do. So I am not going to suffer by getting all worked up about it.
Wow. It's like giving yourself permission to just let it go. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yes. And you said something I just want to come back to, just to make sure people got it. You know, all the things that you said basically boil down to stop judging yourself, parents.
OMG, 100%. The judgment, we are our worst critics. We are so hard on ourselves. And, the society, the culture really pushing that, it really compounds it.
It does. It does. And if we let that go, what are the benefits of not judging ourselves? Like, what do we see? How do we feel? What happens when we let go of all that judgment?
I think you free up mental space and energy to devote to other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I did a session the other day. It was kind of like a meditation session where somebody was guiding me through it. And she had me make some statements, and I made the statements, and all of these things happened. I felt so much lighter afterwards. I was like, Zainab, I feel like you just took some weight, like literally took some weight off my shoulders. It was amazing.
That's wonderful. Do you remember any of the statements?
Oh gosh. Ooh. So basically, I would say it's things like even though I feel that I can't control something, like whatever the thing was, I and then she had me take a deep breath and then she had me breathe out and it's like I can do, I can make space for this. I can take time for this. Um and it was really powerful.
I am so glad you shared that because I am a really big fan, a huge fan, in fact, what I call coping statements. Coping statements. These are like cheerleading statements or affirmations. They're really kind of it's like a shortcut. It's like a reminder. So an example would be something like, "This is rough, but I can handle it," or "It's gonna be okay. I've got this." Or what that does, it's a really kind of one-stop strategy for instant relief. And I have a lot of them in my book. I wrote a book, the book that you mentioned at the beginning. It's
Yes.
called Goodbye Anxiety, a guided journal for overcoming worry. And in the book, I have for each topic of worry, maybe 5 or 6 sample coping statements. And I encourage readers to look over the statements and if they like them, read them. Or if not, to come up with some of your own.
Wow. Show us that book, please, Dr. Terri, so that when people go to look for it, they know exactly what they're looking for. Can we see the book, please?
Of course,
Yes.
here's the book.
Nice.
And it's
Goodbye,
really
anxiety.
it has a lot of eye-catching, if I may say so myself. It's
Yes.
eye-catching and readable and giftable.
And we get to write in that book, and it's like a workbook included in the with the tools.
Yeah, so there is a journaling component. The first
Mm.
section has writing prompts that allow people to dump their worries, to really vent, to get something out of their mind and onto paper, which really promotes emotional regulation. It helps people process things. So I have all of these writing prompts at the beginning, and sorry if I sound self-promoting, but I really like them because they're funny. There's a lot of pop culture references. I use songs from like Beyonce and Bieber to kind of use some of these prompts, and also Hamilton because I am a big theater fan.
Yeah.
So the first section has writing prompts, but then after that, there's a lot of CBT based skills for anxiety management, things like reframing and using coping statements and breathing and so much more.
Wonderful. Yeah, because when I saw that, because when you're able to write and release things from your head, it makes such a difference. And because somebody told me the other day, writing is so much more powerful than using a keyboard. And I can see the therapeutic aspects in that. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yes, journaling is really powerful because it gives you a sense of control and it stops the process of rumination, which is obsessive thinking. You could obsess about something in your mind, or you could set aside some time to get these worries out. Psychologists call this worry time, and it is a research proven strategy. It really makes people feel so much better. And in my book, I have prompts. Here's a topic, for example. Um, this one that I'm looking at now says, I've got 99 problems, and anxiety is one of them.
Gotcha.
And one of my favorite, and,
I love it.
that,
That
and
sounds Jay-Z like to me, Dr. Terry.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so that one that I was talking about, encourages leaders to talk about how anxiety messes up their life. How does it interfere? So
Yeah.
that would be a specific prompt that I also have designated worry dumps where you could just write about whatever's on your mind. There's no guided prompt. It's just whatever's on your mind.
Nice. Yes. Get the book and release people.
I hope so.
Yeah. Wow. So, they've talked about, well, in the news, you're always, I don't watch a whole lot of news, but I've heard that there's a lot of uncertainty coming to us. How can we deal with that?
Great question. So I think the first thing we need to keep in mind is that uncertainty is not equivalent to doom. A lot of us, when we think of uncertainty, we equate not knowing what's going to happen with something bad is going to happen. And I always remind clients that I work with, not knowing what's going to happen just means we don't know. We don't have the information. We can't conclude that it's not going to work out. If you were waiting for a text back, or you're waiting for a college acceptance letter, or information about, did you get the job, and you
Mhm.
haven't heard yet, and you're feeling really uneasy, it's understandable because the uncertainty is really uncomfortable. So you have to keep an open mind and not jump to conclusion, and remind yourself it's going to work out one way or another. If it doesn't work out, I can cope with it. I kind of try to cope ahead and make a plan for how you might cope with it. If you don't get the job, what will you do? What action will you take?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I know we're kind of winding down to time right now. And I just wanted to ask you if there's one thing you want parents to leave here with, what would that be?
I think parents need to stop apologizing. We just need to unapologetically embrace our adulthood and our um, selves, to really not apologize for taking a break, for delegating, for taking time to yourself. Even if you lose patience, it's okay. You could always get your patience back.
Absolutely, because you are human.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody, like there's, just again, I just want to emphasize, give yourselves a break. Nobody's perfect. And if what would it look like? And I'm stealing from so many people. So my friend Dylan Roos would say, what would it like if you were perfect and your child made a mistake? How would they feel?
Yes. And I think as parents, we need to model that mistakes are okay.
Yes.
We really need to demonstrate that to them. And we need to demonstrate that limits and boundaries exist. The child can't run the show. That's not good for them either.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So just be. And have some boundaries because, and I think that's what Dr. Terry was just alluding to when she said, the children, they can't run the show because if they do, your life will be chaotic. They're not old enough. We're giving them too much responsibility, and it will have a negative impact on them.
Yes, yes. There is a psychologist that I think is well known these days, Dr. Becky Kennedy, and she talks about you wouldn't want the child to run the plane. If the pilot opened the door and let the child in,
Yeah.
it would be a really bad idea for them to fly the plane. So sometimes as parents, we really need to say no sometimes and to not give them everything they want and to tolerate their distress.
Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dr. Terry. This has been very enlightening and I've had fun. I hope you have too.
I have.
Yes, it's been great. So I wish you all well. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I would love to share how people could get in touch with me.
You know what? And I told you I was going to ask you how people get in touch with you, and I totally forgot. Sorry. Thank you for that.
Of course. I would love to share that people can find me on Instagram,
Okay.
which is my Instagram name is at Dr. Terri Bacow. That would be Dr. Terri Bacow. And I also have a website, which is drterribacow.com.
Awesome. And I'm just going to spell Bacow it's very easy name, but it's Bacow, just like it sounds.
Absolutely. That's right.
Okay. So drterribacow.com and at Dr. Terry on Instagram. At Dr. Terri Bacow on Instagram.
Yes.
Wonderful. And her book, people, get it. Because I mean that book, it just steps you through it. It's not that you sit there and read the book. You sit there and you work through some things with the book.
Yes. And the book is for best for tweens, teens, and young adults. So parents can buy it as a gift. It's really giftable. It's really disarming. And so it's best to give. But even if you are a parent, you can read it yourself.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Wonderful. And the name of the book again is Goodbye Anxiety. Yeah, say goodbye to anxiety. Too many of us face anxiety, and a lot of people they medicate anxiety away. This is just a way to deal with it and I'm not saying medication is unhealthy, but this way has no side effects.
Yes. And CBT, which is what the book is based on, really has a lot of research support as the gold standard treatment for anxiety.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So thank you again, Dr. Terry. Be blessed, and we'll see you again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.